Hi, my name is Gusei, and I'm an alcoholic. I think it's best to try to start where the whole story kind of begins. I think where it really kicked off was sometime in high school. I didn't really hang around with a bad group of people. We weren't into and we weren't stealing shit. We weren't doing bad things like that. We would get together online and play video games together. Eventually, we started, going to parties, or we would host what we'd call getties, get-togethers, and there we would always play beer pong. And I think that's probably what set me down the path. Because looking back now, I understand that there's a lot of um, I almost correlated together drinking and having fun. And and so if I wanted to have fun, I would drink. It became it became a staple for me. I eventually started picking up the habit of drinking and playing video games at the same time. And that was a bit I don't look back at it now and say, oh my gosh, how horrible of me, right? Honestly, I miss that shit. I miss fucking playing League of Legends and getting drunk. That was that was fun, and to be honest, like I sucked, right? Like I'm not even that good to begin with, let alone, not being able to make proper judgment calls where if I'm sober, it's just like don't do it. And then if I'm not sober, then it's just like, fuck it, go for it. Let's see what happens. My main problem was that the party was never over for me. I've come to realize that over time it was an escape. It was a way for me to not have to think about the things that I should have probably been spending more time thinking about. It was a way for me to kind of suppress certain thoughts, certain feelings of loneliness. It was a way for me to not. It was kind of like me telling myself, "Shut the fuck up." It was a way for me to saying, you know, Goose, whatever you're going through, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. Drink it off and get over it. And one of the things that I've learned throughout this journey I've been taking on of, in AA is that that shit doesn't go away. It doesn't. When you do wake up the next day and you're hungover, first of all, you feel like shit. You also have all the same bullshit that you drank about. It's still there. It didn't go anywhere. It's hard to face a lot of the realities that exist. It's hard to be honest and critical of yourself without depreciating yourself. It's hard to question, am I doing the right thing? Should I go left or right? Is it A or B, door one or door two? Those questions and you know the outcomes of our decisions, they're kind of hard to gauge. And I don't know if maybe it's because I've had enough situations where I chose option A and things went well, but then I've chose option A and things have gone bad. And to a certain extent, it's brought about a lot of anxiety within me. I'll come to a head, to a fork in the road and not know which way I should go, not have an idea of what the outcomes are going to be. And I'll get stuck in this anxious state, this between of fight or flight, of should I or should I not. And a lot of that contributed to me wanting to drink, to me not wanting to face the problems in my life. At first it was just a weekend thing, and for a really long time it was just a weekend thing. And a lot of that was maybe like a sense of responsibility of like I had to wake up in the morning or something along those lines. Looking back, I recognize that I was trying to get together with my friends so that I can drink. I had maybe like one good friend. Every couple of months or so, he asked me if I was okay, if everything's all right. And I don't know if it's all alcoholics or it's just me, but everything's fine, right? Like everything is always fine because this weekend's coming up or this day's coming up or this day off is coming up. So that night you get to go ham, right? You get to fucking take some shots back. You get to fucking, have your favorite little mix and shit like that. I've been through it enough to the point where, and this was a few years back, we would be playing together, and it would be mostly leagues. And as I'd be drinking, it would slowly, my gameplay would get worse. And this group of people I would hang out with and game with since high school, they would notice that. At this point in time, I had moved out of Miami up to North Carolina for university. Go Tar Heels. And while I was there, um, I was lonely. Moving up there and being away from my family, I lived around my family my whole life. They've always been there for me. They've always been, just down the hall or, just, literally a couple miles away if they're at work or whatever the case is. So being up there felt very lonely. Um, it was a big part of me growing up as well, and I do appreciate the experience. Nothing I bring up here is a matter of me regretting something. I don't have regret over what's happened to me in my life. I have appreciation for it because it has made me wiser. It has given me the skills I have today to be able to do the things I do. But I remember, when money started getting tight, my mother helped me a lot. She's always been there for me. And it kind of sucks because I feel like a lot of that stuff I did let her down. And she's really done nothing but give me the opportunity to to excel. The weekend would come and I moved up there with a few other people who came from Miami because we all went to the honor school at Miami-Dade College. And from there was a group of us that had gotten into UNC. And so we all kind of, we would link up every now and then, chat, maybe go out to Franklin Street, which was like the main bar crawl type of area. And that became like kind of a highlight. But as most alcoholics understand, why go to a bar and pay $20 for two drinks when I can go to the liquor store and buy a bottle for $15 and then go to the grocery store or maybe in the same liquor store, you for $20 you can get the cheap bottle of vodka and you can get the soda or the chaser or whatever you're going to use with it. And so eventually that became the plan, right? That was it. It was, I'm not going to go out there and spend money. I get more bang for my buck if I just go to the liquor store, buy the alcohol there, and then on top of that, I don't have to share it, right? I have all this liquor to myself and I could drink as much of it as I want. Sometimes I wouldn't even fucking chill the soda. It got to a point where I just wouldn't. I just keep the soda on the floor. Or it was like mainly probably like Hawaiian punch. You know what I'm saying? I love fruit punch. So I would have Hawaiian punch right there sitting next to me and the bottle. And I'd be playing video games with my friends or friends, I would say more like acquaintances. And I would just pour myself up, maybe have two cups so I can like knock it back and forth to stir it a little bit. And I'd just be drinking and playing. They weren't really helpful. I mean, it wasn't really their place, but I look back and there's a reason why I have to distinguish between what a friend is and what an acquaintance is. Because friends look out for you, right? Friends look out for you. Friends don't judge. A lot of what ended up coming from that was, my gameplay suffered. It cost us certain wins. They're there trying their hardest, and I'm there getting drunk, acting like an idiot. They would just start making jokes, and that would make me even more depressed. And I would isolate myself. I would isolate myself from them so that I can continue drinking in peace because I could play the game with or without them. you know? But I can't drink and be in the call with them. Because if I drink and I'm in the call with them, they say things that hurt my feelings, and then I don't feel good anymore. So I would just isolate myself, and that's one of the things that now looking back I recognize is a big problem. I don't have too many friends. I don't really have friends. From there, eventually I got an internship to California. The weekend would start, and it was like Friday, and I would go to the grocery store and I would buy, a fucking handle of vodka, and I would take it back to the crib and with my Hawaiian punch, and I'd take that shit back to the crib, and I would just fucking, once again, laptop on my lap. I had like a little thing where I could put my mouse on, playing League of Legends, pouring, stirring, drinking. I come home from Cali and I'm depressed because I didn't make it out there. I start drinking on my own again, sitting in front of the computer, playing video games, drinking, isolating myself. People ask me, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. I had set out on this adventure to California thinking that I was going to make all my dreams a reality. But, the reality I didn't understand was that it took a lot more than just being in the right place. I mean, you could argue if California is the right place or not, but I thought it was at the time. And the fact that I didn't accomplish these dreams I had while I was out there bothered me. I felt that coming home was a sign of failure. There's people out there who had already graduated from the university and had stayed out there, with careers, with jobs, and were able to support themselves and all that stuff. And I had to come back home, move back in with my folks, and that didn't sit quite well with me. I really did feel like a failure. Um, so I drank. Eventually, I had worked restaurants before I went out to Cali, and or before I went off to university. I worked a restaurant gig while I was at university. No, actually, yeah, yeah. Before I went, while I was at university, and so like I knew restaurants. I understood the biz. I said, "Fuck it, I'll get a job at back in restaurants. I'll be a waiter." Something you come to find out about working in restaurants is like, there's the people who go home at the end of the day. There's people who are responsible, whatever the case is. But a lot of people, especially like the younger ones, it's like the shift is over. What are you doing? Let's go kick it, and that became a lot of it. That became, and even if it wasn't that, the schedule was so sporadic that you didn't really have a weekend. Weekends were you're normally working on the weekend. So while everyone is chilling, having a good time, going out to eat, you're working, serving tables, all that. So that's where like I would start drinking on a Monday night, which was something that was foreign to me at first. I would drink on a Monday night, be hungover Tuesday, get over it, go back to work Wednesday. Maybe work Wednesday, Thursday, they didn't need me Friday, drink Thursday night. But then maybe I'm working Saturday, Sunday. Well, maybe I don't work the next Monday, so I could drink Sunday night. So now my drinking wasn't just 2 days out of the week, Friday and Saturday night. Now it became whenever I was off. I didn't feel myself moving forward, but it's, looking back, it's like, of course I wasn't moving forward because all I did with my free time was spend the money I had made working, drugging myself. Eventually, I made I made an acquaintance or two, and I started smoking weed, and smoking helped me not drink as much because like when I smoked, I didn't feel the need to drink. But eventually, like all things, like that wasn't enough. So then I would drink and I would smoke. It felt so relaxing and it felt so good that I just wanted to like do whatever I wanted to in that moment. But then when that moment came and passed and it was time for me to do something else or get to what I had to do, let's just say it was the next day. The hangover would make me feel bad, and when you feel like that, when you're hungover, and by the time you recuperate, what, it's like 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon. If you go and spend an hour working out now, it's gonna make it 2. By the time you're done showering, it's 3. You know, moving around, doing all the different stuff, and getting to that point, like, you know, the whole day's gone. You know what wouldn't make you feel so bad? Another drink, smoking again. That bad. All of a sudden, you feel great, and then maybe not great, but you feel better than what you did, like, 10 minutes ago. I had homies who were going to like other restaurants and getting out of Olive Garden, and I was like, all right, so I was like, maybe I'll do the same. You know, maybe if I work at a place where the menu prices are higher, I can make more money, and then therefore be able to do some of the things I want to do, and maybe one day not have to wait tables. And so I found a restaurant. It was La Brasserie at Merrick Park, I think it's called. It was, very proper. You had to have a white button-up shirt and, black slacks, and you had to like fucking fillet the branzino and open that bitch up, take out the fucking spine. And I ended up making acquaintances there with there's one dude, CeeLo. At first it was like, yo, do you want to kick it after the shift and this and that? And I wanted to just go home. I was still doing the same shit where I was drinking and then taking that shit home. But eventually at one point I was like, you know what? Let me link up with homie. At the time I was rapping and stuff like that, and he wanted to like, bro, we should just kick it one day and like freestyle and this and that. He already had one rolled up, and I think I probably had liquor in a cup. That was just who I was. I always had it with me. I always had the drinks. From there we smoked together, we drank together, and eventually it became, every time we worked the same shift. Or if he got off a few hours before me, he'd go right across the street to the yard house, and he'd post up there drinking, and then I'd go join him after I was done, and we'd get drunk, go around different bars and shit. Sometimes the homies had coke and shit. Every now and then I'd do a bump if I felt like I was too drunk or something, so I could sober up a bit. Sober up enough to drive home, which you look back and it's just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, you're drinking, and then you're doing a bump of coke, and then you're drinking more, and then you do another little bump of coke so that you could drive home. After a while, the drinking was you know I was down and out, still not feeling like I was getting anywhere. I was avoiding taking the steps that I had to take to accomplish the things I wanted to accomplish. There's that little initial hill you got to get over when you're trying to do anything, right? Where it's like for me right now, it's editing videos. Where it's like, oh, I really don't want to edit. Mind you, I sit down, and once I'm into it, I'm having a blast, right? Like, I'm having a blast, like, editing shit, editing stupid shit I say, or hot takes and things like that. Like, it's fun for me. There's that initial little hump to get into it. And now it's more of a set the time and just go do it. You're going to enjoy it, so just go do it. But before, it was like, okay, since I'm feeling this anxiety in starting this thing or in doing this task, let me make the climb up the hill not so painful. So I would smoke or I would drink. But then eventually that became, let me smoke and drink, and then the thought was becoming, uh, do I really have to do this right now? Maybe this can wait till tomorrow. Maybe today should just be a chill day. And that eventually became to me not doing the things I had to get done, and just slowly spiraling down. And days and weeks where certain opportunities I had weren't present anymore. Or, I was on a hot streak at one point to become an engineer at House of Hits, and a sound engineer. Um, and then my car's engine gave out on me. And so now the only way I can make it over there, and it's like, 30 something miles, only way I would make it over there is if I took an Uber, which was like $40 one way. And we're talking about like where I was going every fucking day. because I was dead set on, yo, I'm gonna engineer there and I'm gonna take off. Like my whole music thing is gonna take off from there. And I was so dead set on it, thinking that like that was it. And when that happened, it devastated me so much that I lost hope. And to get myself to not think about that, I would drink. I would smoke. It's those times where I have everything going for me and something knocks me off of my high horse, that all of a sudden I need something to help me cope. Something to, instead of dealing with the pain of, or the frustration of everything's going so well and now I have this stupid bump in the road. I used to say there's always something. There's always something. There's always something. There's always something. So I'll be on a high streak, feeling like I'm getting to where I'm supposed to be, and something will knock me down. And instead of just dealing with it, and not necessarily sucking it up, but like facing the fact that, look, this thing happened to me. It sucks, but it's not the end of everything. Like, let's figure out how to get back on the horse and keep going. Instead, I would self sabotage. And more recently, what led me into AA was I got to the point where every dollar I earned, or every dollar I had, or every dollar that was given to me was going to beer. And it sucks because, when I ran out of money and it got to the point where I'm asking my sister if I could borrow $20. I'm asking my mom if I could borrow $20. It sucks. It sucks because you borrow the $20 and yeah, maybe you use $8 for gas, but then the other 12 goes to getting you a six pack. It sucks when that six pack runs out because now you don't feel the thing you wanted to feel, but you're still in a situation where you can't even afford the next one. And then when you think about it, it's like you have people in your life who are willing to help you, but when they help you, you just turn around and hurt yourself. And there was a great shame that came over me that, and in my head was like, is that, like, am I doing justice to them? Is that fair to them? They want to see me do good in life. They want to see me be happy. And, and here I am, like, essentially drinking myself to death, not feeling any better. And like, dude, when you are literally waiting for the grocery store to open so that you can go in there, and you're one of the first 10 people in that grocery store that fucking day, and someone's checking out pastries, someone's checking out, like, fucking, random food items, someone else just needed fucking detergent real quick, and then you're walking up with the fucking six pack of beer at 7 in the morning, at 7:05. That's not okay. It's not. When you're doing that so that you can do to work, it's not okay. It's not. It's not. And it had gotten to the point where I was drinking every day. Um, I stopped drinking on November 20th, and since then I realized that part of the reason why I was drinking was because I wasn't making headway in whatever direction I was trying to get into, you know. But the reason I wasn't making any headway in these areas was because I had been holding myself back. There's a lot of things that I'm recognizing now that I personally haven't dealt with. You know, some of these things I've been able to identify. Some of these things I've been able to practice at and get a little bit better. I'm not cured. I don't think I'll ever be. I don't think there's such thing as, you know, like my sponsor says, you know, you don't graduate from this program. This is an ongoing lifetime thing. But I think I'm getting better. One of my biggest worries it wasn't even the first week of being sober. It wasn't even the first month or the 2 months. My preoccupation is when life is gonna start getting good. And I appreciate my life and I respect, you know, what I have and the opportunity to have. But when things start getting good, great, what happens when I get knocked off of my high horse again? I don't want to relapse. I'd feel a sense of shame if I did. Thinking about it brings me shame, you know, like it makes me feel like, oh, it makes me cringe at the thought of like having to pick up another white chip. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't want to do that. Things are getting so much better for me. Like I said, I've been 68 days clean and I feel great and I'm making headway on things that I would have never made a headway on before. I'm making moves and I think I'm for the first time closer than I ever been to where I should be. So I don't wanna I don't wanna fuck that up. I don't know what else to say right now. There's a lot more for me to jump into. There's a lot more I could talk about, but this is just the first of many videos in a journey that's gonna last me a lifetime. I hope that those of you out there who've heard this, who are either alcoholics or know an alcoholic, you know, can maybe understand some of the stuff I've mentioned or maybe, you know, relate to it in some way or another. For those of you who are alcoholics out there, who are currently in AA, you know, like we say it at my home meeting, you know, keep coming back. Keep coming back and work it. It's worth it. So work it. You're worth it. All right. And just keep going to those meetings. Keep showing up to meetings. For those of you who are considering AA, I highly recommend it. It's one of those things where you go and it's just people. And even if you can't relate to one person or another or another or that whole fucking room, at some point, someone is gonna say something, and that light bulb in the back of your head is gonna turn on, and you'll be like, "Oh shit, that's me." And before you know it, you start hearing your story and their stories. I go to a room right now where I'm not even fucking 90 days into the program, and most of the people there have like fucking 30 years. What the fuck does my story have for them? But believe it or not, I'll say some shit, and sometimes someone would chime in right after and be like, you know, that reminds me of this, and that, and you know, da 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 da, and it's just this ability to share stories with one another that makes it such a beautiful thing. You know, nobody is in there because drinking was so fucking great for them, right? Everybody's in there because their lives were fucking ruined by it. And it's not to fucking bring down the person who can enjoy a drink. It's to fucking form a collective of individuals who can't stop at one or two. Who have a problem, who go for thirds and fourths and fifths and sixths until they don't remember the fucking night. It's a room full of people who are struggling with the exact same shit you're struggling with. And all you do there is talk about it. And you don't have to even talk. You could just sit there and listen. I think that's one of the best parts, is that there's no obligation. They're fully self-sustaining. So it's like they pass a basket around like it's church. And if you want, you could put money in. You don't have to. And it's, bro, it's like it's I call it $2 therapy. $2. So $2 a week is getting me fucking therapy. And by the way, that's by my own choice. It's the same way you can go to church and you don't have to put money in the basket. You can go to AA and you don't have to put money in the basket. So it's like literally free, you know? I think the only reason that, like, I try to go above and beyond, and by the way, putting $2 isn't above and beyond, right? Like, come on, let's be real with ourselves. But the only reason I do try to make sure I have something to put in that basket every week, and I'm starting to show up to be like an assistant to this one position, this one person in this role, and like I do it because I'm grateful that that room exists. I'm grateful that those people are in that meeting and that there's a place for us to come together to have these conversations. And so, like, I want to give back to this thing that in only fucking 2 months and a few days has given me so much. It's given me completely different outlooks on life. And one of the things too is, like, my sponsor, man, before he was even my sponsor, bro, bought me the fucking big book. And there's a certain things and at certain points I'll probably find like little parts to like highlight in this. But it's so fucking beautiful how you can read this stuff and like and see so much of yourself in a story that was written almost a fucking 100 years ago. First copyright for this was in 1939. 1939, dude. It's 2024. We're literally 15 years away from like the 100th anniversary of this fucking book being copywritten. And my sponsor got me not just that book, but then he also got me the 12 and 12, the 12 steps and traditions, and and reading these hand in hand, and we're working the steps. I'm still new. I've only gone past step one, which is admitting that you're powerless over alcohol. That it had a control on you and things like that. In that short time, I've become so grateful. I've become so appreciative. I've I've had moments where I've been able to enjoy the little things. I've even had moments where I even had this one struggle where it was on Thanksgiving. It was just right after I had stopped drinking, and I was being offered a drink by a family member. I'm like, nah, I'm good. And they said, are you sure? I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And so I was like, no, no, I'm good, I'm good. And every time I was like, I want to drink, like when it wasn't just completely gone from my head and it would come back and hit me, I'm like, all right, let's go to the bathroom, let's do like 10 push ups. And so I'd go to the bathroom, I'd do 10 push ups. And that would be kind of like my chastising, like my, what's the thing? I don't know remember what it's called, but like back in the day where people used to whip themselves for their sins. That was my version of that. That was my punishment to myself for even having the thought of drinking. And it's not a bad deal, right? What I'm saying? Like push-ups aren't bad for you, and drinking is bad for me. So kind of bringing those two together kind of helped, and it was really tough. And at the end of the night, I almost thought about it, and I thought about it again, and I was just like, I could have this drink, which is going to lead to a second drink, which is going to lead to a third, which is going to lead to me not being satisfied because I haven't had enough to drink, which is going to lead to me figuring out a way to get more drink, which is going to lead to me having a hangover, which then means I wouldn't leave in the morning at the right time. And it's just been too many times where I have been drinking and, you know, I've isolated myself, and, I haven't had conversations with people. with like my family members, or maybe, maybe I drink, and maybe I drink one time and I'm hanging out with my girl and everything's cool and everything's nice. But then like a month down the road, I'm drinking and hanging out with my girl and she does something to upset me, and you know, now I'm fucking yelling. I don't want to do that. She didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that. I don't deserve feeling that darkly. So why am I doing it to myself? Yeah, she doesn't deserve me yelling at her. She doesn't deserve me being an asshole towards her, 100%. But at the same time, right? I don't deserve letting myself be so offended by certain things. I don't deserve working myself up negatively that I have to fucking punch something. Like, I remember I punched the floor a few months ago because who cares what the story was? I punched the floor. I was mad. I was mad and I punched the floor. I got a boxer's fracture on this fucking pinky. That's fucking healed into place and obviously healed incorrectly. But like, I don't even know if I could fucking like really show it off here. But like, these two fucking knuckles don't line up. I'm trying to hold them as fucking plainly as possible. This one's fine. This one kind of bends downwards, and I did that just out of rage. I don't deserve to have a fucked up pinky, but I did it to myself, right? So why am I gonna keep doing something that is ruining me and ruining the relationships I have with people and ruining their lives, ruining my life, ruining everything? It's not worth it. I'm worth it. That's not. I find joy in little things now. I don't have to fucking numb myself to have fun, you know, taking care of my nephews. Now I could stand there and appreciate, wow, look, their youthfulness and they're full of life, and right now they're imagining crazy action battles going between their figurines and this car, and they drive it off the edge of the table, and to them it's like a whole fucking action movie, right? I can appreciate being there to witness that. I don't have to be drunk. And plus, if I'm drunk, I'm more than likely to become short tempered, which would then, at a certain point, once I've gotten my fill of watching them do their thing and I'm like, I'm satisfied. Now it's like, all right, fuck off. That's not fair to them. And I don't want to be older one day thinking about all the times I missed out with family, all the times I could have been there with them. I don't want that shit. I don't. I don't. I want to finish off with two things. If you need help, or if someone you know needs help, if anything in this story kind of rings true for you, go to an AA meeting. I'll be 100% frank with you. I have a pride in saying that I'm an AA. It feels good to say. I don't care how people think about it. I don't care about how people think about me. How about the fact that I'm willing to go do something for myself, to better my mental health, to better my state of mind, to not ruin my life and the lives of those people I love? There's no shame in that. But there was a lot of shame in being an alcoholic and thinking I had everything under control. If you know someone, try to get them there. Don't push on them too hard, because, sometimes we just like to do what people, the opposite of what people tell us to do. Just because fuck you, I am the master of my own destiny. You can't interfere. You don't know what's right for me because you don't know what I'm going through. Okay? But suggest it. Bring it up. I'm going to include some links in the description. Two apps. One of them, you can use either or, but they kind of give you an idea of like what meetings are going on around you, and one of them has like a daily reflections thing, so like it'll be like a little bit of the big book, and or the 12 and 12, and you read it and it's something to reflect over, and it's really healthy. It's really good for you. I want to be doing more of these. My hope is to put one of these up a week. I hope it helps some of you out there listening to this as much as it helps me sharing this and putting it out there. Um, if you have any comments to add, comment sections there. I mean, I really don't want to be fucking cheesy. Like I'm not doing this for likes and subscribes. Okay, I'm doing this because one of my sponsor checked out my videos and was like, dude, you should be vulnerable on camera. Like, you should talk about your journey. Like, he gave me the idea to do this, right? And I had thought about it, and then somebody else who I met through doing content, through live streaming on Twitch, he was like, yo, have you ever thought of, like, really, like, I think literally the same day, he said the same thing. And I was just like, okay, like, these are two completely different people who don't know each other at all. And they both, and I was like, that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. And at the end of the day, I don't know who this might help. The same way that I go to these rooms and I share a bit of my life with people who have been sober for 30 years plus. And I have no idea how this is going to help them. But fuck, maybe it might. Because every time I listen to one of their stories, I'm so trying to like figure out, okay, what can I take away from this? You know? How can I use what they're saying now and what they're sharing to help better my thinking and my perspective and all that other stuff? So I hope it helps. I hope it helps. And I would appreciate if you guys liked and subscribed. You don't have to. Don't feel like you have to. I don't, it's okay. But with that being said, I do want to close out with this is the second thing. I do want to close out with the Serenity Prayer, because that one's a bitch, but it's like, it's fucking facts. You know what I'm saying? So join me now as we go through the Serenity Prayer. All right? It's simple. It goes like this. Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you guys. Thanks. I'll see you guys next week.